chungu sana na Eldoret kuwasi. Anyway, we'll have Kuna Njima Castro, political analyst, in studio for that. Hans Rop will also be here alongside Josephat Kamanya. Do stand by for that conversation.
Oh yes. Later on into Feelgood Friday, we heard some young kids on matters ballet dance group.
Ballet.
Yeah.
Wewe dance ya kawaida imekushinda hata anguka nayo umeenda ballet. Anyway.
Mimi natazama tu na pia the viewer atakuwa natazama tu. For the young kids out there, they're on holiday by the way, so stick around. Ambia mom and dad wakufungulie TV at around 8 am. You check out this whole bit, and then on the ones and twos, the threes and fours, Wheels of Steel, is one man, DJ Granite. So tupatie requests on the headlines. Kenyans get a road deal on fuel prices.
Yes, you remember we're talking about, despite the fact that the Finance Act of 2023 was declared unconstitutional, that 16% VAT still stands as far as EPRA says, as well as that fuel levy. The court yesterday declared it illegal, but it's still there. So at least 21 shillings on every litre of fuel. Shutdown looms in schools and universities. Yes, lecturers as well as teachers intend to go on strike as early as August 26th.
Yes.
We're telling you more about that. That's the Daily Nation.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, maneno mawili, Uhuru achokozwa. Hey.
Huyu jamaa tulikuwa tumemsahau, but everyone now is talking about Uhuru. Ukitaka kusema kitu wewe nataka kununua gari, but Uhuru tuliongea na yeye, unajua. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
On Business Daily, banks post record 140 billion cash shillings profit on costly loans.
As you complain that life is getting difficult for you,
banks
wanaingiza 140, literally smiling all the way to the bank. And Kanja, Gen Z's taught us lesson. Finally, Gen Z's moko kwa front page.
Tumerudi. People daily have made sure we're back there.
Inspector General yesterday was being vetted for the job.
Yes.
On the Star,
who will save Kenyans from cancer. Alafu
Mpox also gets to the front page. Let's cross over to Uganda. Today, unfortunately, we don't have the Daily Monitor.
Daily Monitor.
We do have the new vision. Government pushes to regulate churches and mosques. Now, this is a very, very interesting discussion. This happens in Rwanda. In Rwanda, huwezi anzisha tu kanisa kiholela.
And Kenya is really trying to do this. Remember that report by the Senate Ad hoc Committee after the Shakahola massacre, and even after.
The thing about Kenya, the report is out, yes, but you'll never get to see it.
The implementation of it.
It's somewhere gathering dust. Well, in Uganda, they're serious about it. Policy to curb extortion, manipulation of believers. Wow, interesting. What do you think about this headline?
Tanzania is also
complaining about churches. In Kenya, Shakahola is still a case that's alive.
Yes.
So this in the region is still a big deal.
Oh, yes.
But will they be able to do it? We are very religious people.
Yes. Yeah? And will other East African countries copy what is happening in Uganda?
Meanwhile, the big news that has been on all headlines since last weekend, Kitezi Buffer Zone, that landfill in Kampala that caused a landslide, killing at least 39 people. Now they say over 100 households to be relocated. That's going to create a buffer zone around that landfill. That's in as far as Uganda news is concerned.
To engage Tanzania, on the front page of The Citizen, they say what Samia's cabinet shakeup means for legal health sectors. It has been a cabinet shakeup that began, I think it was about 3 weeks ago there. Alianza na cabinet docket here, ICT, just trying to see who will be in there. And it was around the same time that Kenya also had the cabinet shakeup. So now they're having that as well. They say President's decision to overhaul the Constitution, Legal Affairs and Health Ministries comes at a critical juncture marked by complex international legal challenges and acute healthcare demands.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that's as far as the cabinet reshuffle is concerned. Maswala ya siasa bado yanapewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi. Nyuma ya pazia, uteuzi wa Samia, masuala ya cabinet reshuffle. Wachambuzi wa siasa na sheria wabainisha sababu za wateule kuwekwa kando au kurejeshwa kwenye waziri nyadhifa mbalimbali. Yeye agusia kiapo kujiongeza. Meanwhile, kinyang'anyiro serikali za mitaa November 27. These are civic polls you're talking about.
Yes.
They don't have every election in one. So tuanze huko chini kwa makanjo.
Tukimaliza tuende
next year ndio ile kubwa.
Yes.
All right. Those are the papers today. We'll be back to discuss the local dailies later.
Tuangalie traffic situation in the country.
It is a Friday. Kunanga pressure sana Friday. Mambo inakuanga tu nywele. Lakini tuangalie of Haile Selassie Avenue. Before you get to that roundabout towards Machakos bus station, this is the area around Marikiti. Marikiti, Mudhurwa hapo. So it's a busy time of day as vehicles get into town and matatus take people outside town as well. So nothing to worry about there. The southern part of the city, getting into town from Imara Daima all the way to the CBD is looking good. Langata Road 2, nothing to report about. A bit of a slowdown when you go down on Bagathi Way towards Timol roundabout. Not the other way, but towards Timol roundabout. Once you get closer to the Timol roundabout, a bit of a slowdown there. Ngong Road as well, along past Prestige Plaza towards town, a bit of a slowdown, but those are just matatus picking people, passengers there. And finally, the major tributary into town, bits and pieces of slow traffic there along Waiyaki Way, past Loresho, ABC Place. Before you get to ABC Place, slow traffic, just slow, not stalled, just slow. Yes. But otherwise, after that, it's smooth all the way into town. Right.
Let's take a look at the weather and see. Right, let me load it for you.
So yes, traffic building up slowly. We'll be giving you more updates in as far as traffic is concerned. But remember, it's a Friday, nothing to worry about. A lot to look forward to today, including the discussion we're just about to. Some of the headlines, and we'll be coming back to this. Why are teachers going on strike later this month? But meanwhile, fuel prices. Mbona mpigi kelele?
Mbona mpigi kelele. On the weather in Kwale, this is the coastal region, really. This is what you expect over the weekend, getting into Friday as well as Saturday and Sunday. Highs of 30 degrees Celsius. Into sides the central region, in Meru specifically, it is quite cold, and that is what they tell you, some very cold conditions. The weekend, the highs of 23 and 22 is what you're going to be seeing. And then finally, sides, let's see how Eldoret is going to be looking like
the new city.
After the new city.
Kuna joto huko?
Bado ni mvua. Bado ni mvua. Sijui kama jana there's some light showers as we were expecting, but then ni kama pia nayo iliamua acha behave kidogo.
There was enough gold and silver in the city. So yes, they still had something to celebrate.
Oh yes, and finally in Nairobi.
There's Nairobi.
Acha tuangalie Nairobi and see what you're going to be expecting for today. Probably kama itakuwa ni jua kali ama ni weather in Nairobi for today, 15 degrees Celsius and quite warm temperatures, but then specifically for the weekend, highs of 24 and 22 on Sunday. So nothing major to report when it comes to this particular weather. Into the diary, the G7 is, today is the second day for the G7, which is basically the umbrella body for the 7 female governors. This summit began yesterday and is going to conclude today. It is happening in Machakos. A number of female leaders are there actually. So we expect to see if what is going to be said there. Maybe President William Ruto might be heading there as well to the end of this summit. That's in a nutshell of what is anticipated in our news diary. Right now though, today in history.
On the 16th of August 2012, the South African Police Service opened fire on a crowd of striking mine workers at Marikana in the northwestern province. The police killed 34 mine workers and left 78 seriously injured. 250 of the miners were arrested following the open fire assault.
All right, time now to take a look at the local dailies in depth. All right, and this makes me feel like a teacher. Class, which paper is this? The Standard, yes. On the front page, Kenyans get a raw deal on fuel prices. And this is what people should be talking about.
Yes.
Motorists are paying up to 21 shillings per litre of fuel in what is now illegal taxes, as the government continues to defy court orders that struck out both the Finance Act of 2023, which doubled VAT to 16%, and a raise in roads maintenance levy by 7 shillings. Yes, so kuna pesa mingi sana wanalipia hiyo mafuta. If you reduce this 21, fuel should be about 165 166 shillings a litre.
So
when was the last time we were paying that much for a litre of fuel?
So basically, this was EPRA ignoring the court order on fuel.
Yes.
And keeping those prices high.
Yes. EPRA yesterday issued the new prices. Yesterday was 15th. Ilikuwa juzi jioni.
Yes.
So yesterday is when they took effect. So that's a big discussion right here on the front page of the Standard. The story is extensively covered on pages 4 and 5 of this paper. The rest of the page is dedicated to what was happening in Eldoret yesterday.
Eldoret.
Olympic stars spice up celebrations in Kenya's new city of champions. And we do have the president there handing over the flag of the new city to some of the big men of that city who have been running this town, now city,
yes,
for a long time. And then down there we do have some of the gold medalists from the Olympics, the two lady athletes who look very much alike.
Oh yes, Beatrice Chebet and Faith Kipyegon.
And they're always together.
By the way.
And they dress the same. If you meet them, you don't know who's who.
Unless you're really into sports and you know them, kama wajui.
So there was a lot of celebration yesterday in Eldoret. They had so much to celebrate about. The president was there, awarding the Olympians, gold medalists.
Statue kutolewa.
Statue, by the way, I didn't see any feature on the statues. They all disappeared.
Zilitolewa. After the whole controversy, ilibidi city sasa watoe, the government wakatoa sasa.
Sababu akisha tu ile ya mahindi pekee.
That represents now.
All the discussions were around Eldoret yesterday, and rightfully so. Congratulations to Eldoret, City of Champions. Other highlights given prominence on this front page today. Kanja on why Parliament failed to Gen Z demos. And yesterday, the police nominee for IG was
Douglas Kanja.
Yes. Akasema anajua kwa nini Gen Z waliweza kubreach Parliament. Meanwhile, WHO's global red alert on new lethal mpox type. That's another big discussions on matters health. Sijui kwa nini Kenyans are not feeling this. We don't seem scared. Or after COVID now we know, we can handle some of these things. On the back page of the Standard, more pictures of the president at State House Eldoret. We have the president there with all the medalists, or rather most of the medalists there from the Olympics. That is a big story. Will United calm down nerves in new season? Preps for new season. EPL fixtures this weekend. I tell you.
Leo 10:30 p.m.
versus Liverpool at 2:30 p.m. Arsenal versus Wolves. Everton, Brighton. This tomorrow. Newcastle, Southampton, Nottingham, Bournemouth, West Ham, Aston Villa. Sioni Manu.
Manu ni leo, unaangalia page 38. Today,
all right. For lovers of the English Premier League, the Standard has done you justice.
Yes.
The entire sports back page is dedicated to preparations for the new EPL season. That's the Standard this morning. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation.
Shutdown looms in schools, universities, as you had alluded to earlier. Yesterday, the KUPPET, National Governing Council, said that they're going to be striking as of the 26th of August. Sawa, mindo mwalimu basi. Class, next paper, Daily Nation. They say crisis, candidates sitting national examinations will be hard hit should teachers' unions go ahead with a planned strike next term to push for higher pay and promotions, among other grievances. University lecturers have also joined the fray in a move that will disrupt learning in the country. As pages 4 and 5, they have a quote there by Kelo Misori, who's the Secretary General of KUPPET. They've also listed the teachers' grievances, about 8 of them, and also now the lecturers' grievances. Palachini, it's now official. Welcome to Eldoret, the city of champions. Kitambo ulikuwa unasema the city of champions, but then haikuwa inaleta uzito sahi.
The home of
the home. Oh yes, the home of champions. Sahi ni the city of champions. Good stuff. Sahi Eldoret guys can say I'm a city boy. Other headlines, Pale Kando, Gashago allies now challenge Uhuru on Ruto deal with Raila. It's as if now we're going to be seeing, even getting into the weekend, the face of former President Uhuru Kenyatta on most of the dailies. Real quick on other headlines, Pale Juu, something that we were discussing yesterday, the road maintenance levy The courts came to the rescue of Kenyans. Court blocked state from implementing new higher road maintenance levy. They also continue. This was the big headline on the very top strip. It was a big headline yesterday. Imesongeshwa pale juu. The DPP seeks arrest warrant for suspect in equity heist. The bank manager sought over theft of 1.5 billion shillings from the lender. That is the Daily Nation. Mwalimu, tuendelee na darasa
wanafunzi. Munasoma gazeti gani hili?
Daily Taifa Leo.
Linasema nini? Uhuru amefanya nini?
Achokozwa.
Viongozi wa siasa Mlima Kenya wamtaka rais mstaafu aseme ukweli iwapo ndiye alimtuma Raila kwa Ruto. And you know, dragging someone into a discussion he was never even involved in. Now everyone is wewe ndio ulisema. Ndio ulisema, tuambie. Others are claiming ni alisema, ni alisema alipiga simu.
Imagine unasoma gazeti unashanga mimi nilisema hizi vitu lini? Jamini.
Wanasiasa wa ukanda wa Mlima Kenya waamini Raila aliwadanganya wa Kenya kwa kusema kuwa rais wa 4 ndiye alimshauri kuokoa serikali ya Kenya kwanza wakati wa maandamano. Je, ni ukweli? Nani alisema it happen? Pale juu kwenye gazeti hili, Man United yaanza ligi kuu EPL leo baada ya miezi 3 ya mapumziko.
Leo ni mabao.
Onana atakipata. Ligi pendwa zaidi ya nchi ya bara Ulaya za rejea. Lakini masuala ya Eldoret sasa ni jiji, sio mji. Tofauti, kuna tofauti pale.
Darasa mmesikia?
Ni jiji,
sio mji.
Kwingineko WHO wanasema Mpox inapenda wanaume.
Mjichunge sana wanaume. Jichunge sana.
Kati ya waathiriwa 10, 9 ni wanaume na hasa waliambukizwa kupitia ngono.
Darasa kupitia nini? Kupitia ngono.
Alafu Trump pale azidi kushambulia Harris.
Ila siasa ya kule
zaidi kwani mbali.
Sawa.
Masuala ya biashara.
Class, let's get into business class now. Banks post record 140 billion cash shillings profit on costly loans. So class, even as you write your notes, they say industry marks 4th straight half year of profit rises and performance raises prospect of higher dividend pay. Let's take a look at some other bits that you might want to know this morning. So in case you're into the coffee sector, they say fruits leapfrog coffee in export earnings. Ya kuwa ile export ya matunda imeongezeka kuliko ya kahawa. Kenya's export earnings from fruits have overtaken those from coffee for the first time, official data shows. Our business class ends there for a bit. Let's take a look at other headlines. Mwalimu Fred.
Asante sana mwalimu. Tuangazie gazeti la People Daily. Kanja, Gen Z's taught us lesson. This is a police IG. Police chief admits officers were overwhelmed by brave young Kenyans who stormed parliament in protest against state opulence and punitive taxes. This one has focused solely on the vetting process of the police inspector general. Beautiful, the pride of a nation. That is the other headline given prominence. President William Ruto receiving the Olympic champions flag from Team Kenya captain Faith Kipyegon at the Eldoret State Lodge yesterday. And such a beautiful photo there on the front page of the People Daily.
Na mwalimu, headline yenye magazeti mengine hajaangalia ni ya Shakahola.
Shakahola, witness recounts sex abuse. This is a totally new angle. People just thought it's starving and dying, and now they're saying there's also sexual abuse. So read that on the People Daily. And win for Kenyans after court stops road levy. But what win? Koti nasema hivi lakini April anasema mambo mengine. Sasa tumeshinda wapi?
Yes.
Anyway, that's the People Daily.
Aya, class, kabla tumalizie, tuangalie maneno mengine. Who will save Kenyans from KEMSA? Love the play of words there. Wanasema agency distributed non-compliant health products and scrupulous officers created 275 health facilities kwenye page 4 na 5. Lakini hiyo ugonjwa wa Mpox, monkeypox, wanasema wamekuandikia symptoms pale. Class, naomba uchukue notes, tutakuwa tuna revise baadaye. Other headlines pale chini also make mention of Eldoret City and something else about health. Why move to SHA? The Social Health Authority is critical. And finally, Nairobi protests over Pop Rep remarks on youth demos. Na hiyo ndio The Star. Kabla mwalimu, naomba to invite mwalimu mwingine. Mwalimu Entertainment.
All right, it's a weekend queue. Bansi Kimoyo has already made her way into studio as we take a look at the cartoons and usher her in onto the set. And we start off with a cartoon on the Daily Nation.
Play by the rules, hiyo ni Gavel, representing the judiciary. Na kuna askari hapa amejifunika mask, anashikilia rungu akipiga ile hiyo violin. Yeye anaenda dance to the tunes too.
Unajua hapa wanaweza confuse wa Kenya wengi wakiweka guitars. Tunajua guitar na masuala ya guitar, but what they're saying simply is that the judiciary is telling the police officers to follow the National Police Service Act, but hiyo ni kama kupigia mbuzi gitaa. Wale hawasikia anabeba rungu ya kuangamiza, na yeye anafaa chunge, yeye anaangamiza. Wanataka kunimaliza. And this is the People Daily.
Yes. People Daily inaenda na police officers, a bunch of them, wamevamia mmoja hapa. Alikuwa amesimama kwa bani imeandikwa warning, usikojoe hapa.
You're under arrest for having bad manners. Yes.
Commentator anasema, I wish they can use this excessive force in fighting corruption.
Yes. We saw what looked like an excerpt from an action movie. Pale wakiingia kwa Jimmy Wanjigi.
Na pia ile ya 8 there's so many police officers than even waandamanaji. On the Star, they go with the Murima and ile ilikuwa nasema Uhuru achokozwa.
Mdomo imekuwa sumu. Yes. He can't say anything. So guys are actually fighting over the retired president. At some point he was an unwanted fellow in this country.
Yes.
Right now everyone says or swears or invokes the name of the 4th president. And it makes for very interesting conversations.
Oh yes.
That's a cartoon on the Star.
And finally on the Standard.
And you'll realize what he has done here. This is where you're supposed to read your directions. So this vehicle is Kalonzo, but he has so many options and he doesn't know where to go after here. It is open. So where should Kalonzo go?
All right.
There are so many routes after this board, but it's not clear. So I guess it's not clear where he should go.
Oh yes.
And the weekend queue is here.
The weekend queue has officially landed.
Karibu
hapa katikati.
Acha nisonge na Pulse. Because obviously I'm here for the entertainment. Good morning, gents.
Good morning. It's
How are you? Good to see you as well.
You're now an entertainment teacher. What are we learning today?
Of course, it's been a beehive of activities. When I look at the Pulse, the second page, we have celebrity lookalikes. Ruga was in town the other day. We have our own Ruga wa Kayole. And I don't know what this obsession is with Kenyan wanting to look like celebrities outside this country. We have Jason Derulo.
Oh yeah, I saw Derulo's look.
Yeah.
And I saw him alongside the
Diamond, Kenyan Diamond.
Oh, yes.
We have the Kenyan Cardi B.
Is that Kenyan Steve Boy look-alike?
No, not yet. We have the real one.
Oh.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Ruga is very calm about, just having a look-alike.
Yeah.
Like he was very comfortable even when we met. He gave him the time to like, you shine. At some point, Ruga was even the Ruga Wakayole was even outshining
the other.
The real Ruga.
Lakini idai yenye alikuwa ameweka nayo.
Do we have instances where Kenyan artists have lookalikes elsewhere in other countries? I've never heard of that.
Not really.
Like who now? Nonini or Juakali.
Okay,
those are the ones I remember.
Clearly, I was not expecting Nonini, but that's the card he pulled. But I don't think there's any. I think only Kenyans are obsessed with that.
Or maybe there are, lakini ni sisi hatujui.
We would have known if they were out there like this guy.
Tungejua.
Lakini yeah, of course, it's Friday. It's a Feelgood Friday, and we're here to update you on everything that has been happening in the entertainment scene. Zari and husband Shakib are apparently going through a lot. Steve Simple Boy has asked for 20 million for a collabo with Diamond Platnumz. We'll be telling you more on that.
Plus, there's a question I want to ask you. Yesterday, Eldoret was declared a city, officially.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of debate about whether or not it actually qualifies for that kind of declaration. You saw the statues.
Yeah.
They're very interesting.
Somebody said it's Akatope. You know the book?
Oh, yeah.
What's your sentiment about that declaration? You've been to Eldoret, right?
Yeah, I've been to Eldoret a number of times. About the declaration, it's fine, but about the statues,
They can do better.
I think I modeled better when I was a kid.
Hey.
You know those models we used to make in
Like
class?
clay and everything.
Yeah.
Fred doesn't obviously relate.
To be honest, this guy is jirani akiona hiyo pale kwa mtandao.
I know, Tanzania would have roasted us.
Hawatanyamaza.
Tanzania would have roasted
But I'm told they removed all the statues, they just left one, ile ya mahindi.
Ile mind.
Oh,
So
that one
was
looks, yeah, that one looks
They painted
nice.
it. Initially it was gold. Or
Alafu by asubuhi ilishakuwa
white.
green.
Yeah.
Ilishakoma by asubuhi.
The pressure increases or decreases?
Increases, obviously.
Increases
Yes.
for real.
All right, so yes, Feel Good Friday, we do expect a lot more coming up later on. After the break, of course, we start off with the State of the Nation, discussing matters politics and the big headlines. Do stand by for that. And you can be part of this show all the way up till that 10 a.m. through our social media pages on X at TV47 News, on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag me on X at Fred Indimuli.
At Bansi Kimoyo.
At Miss_Kimuyu.
At Nyarugita_22047 is our SMS number. Your WhatsApp is 0793267279. On the ones and twos, threes and fours, Wheels of Steel coming up at around 8 a.m. DJ Granite. Bansi Kimoyo and I will be with you. So anza kutuma requests sahi. Unataka Granite aanzishe weekend yako in what kind of a way? Leo tuende na vibe gani?
R&B.
Umeachwa?
Nimependwa.
Oh, okay. Hey, sawa. Wewe sijui kama umependwa mpaka tu, but then utuambie as we take this short break.
Are you ready for a night of
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child.
than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here, TV 47. My name is Fred Indemuli. Feelgood Friday, it is, right here on Morning Cafe. Karibuni sana. Time for us to take a look at the quick headlines on the dailies. The Standard has chosen to go with fuel prices. They say Kenyans get a raw deal on fuel prices. Meanwhile, on the Daily Nation, shutdown looms in schools and universities. The only common headline or common discussion on all the front pages this morning is a declaration of Eldoret as a city. Allow me to introduce my panelists, beginning on my immediate right. Gakuna Njima Castro is a political analyst, Secretary General of Vijana Mbele Foundation. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Hans Rop, a familiar face on this panel, political analyst. Karibu sana. Alongside Josephat Kamanya, another familiar face here. Let's start with what's happening in Eldoret. Interesting discussion there, and we saw yesterday a lot of celebrations. Of course, the combination of celebrating the Olympians and gold, silver and bronze medalists from the recent Olympics in Paris, and now the declaration of what was Eldoret municipality into a city. And quick thoughts on this, Gakuna. We've seen a lot of comments online. Some people do not agree that it was time for Eldoret to become a city. Probably it should have waited for a bit more, probably some more developments to occur, probably better infrastructure, better roads, a bigger town, a bigger city center. Do you agree that it was time for it to be conferred with that status of a city?
First of all, I would start by congratulating our champions, our Olympics champions from Eldoret. And maybe it was time for Eldoret to become a city, or maybe not because of its status. Number one, because when conferring an urban area into a city status, of course, there are the parameters that the area or the urban area needs to have met. Of course, infrastructure is one of the key things that need to be met by the urban area. And we are looking at infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of security, in terms of drainage system or waste management, and also its ability and capacity to handle disaster management. So there are those parameters and conditions, of course, for an urban area to meet so that it can be conferred into a city. So the question is whether Eldoret town or now a city have these parameters or reached this grade to be made a city. Of course, it is even becoming more interesting looking at the infrastructure development that it's in Eldoret town, because such a traditional town that was, of course, it grew up, and I remember it grew up because it was made a traditional town together, it was growing up together with a town like Garissa and Othaya and such towns when they were made to, or they were set to develop infrastructure or physical infrastructure of a town. And of course, it has a lot to be made. There is a lot to be made for it to upgrade its infrastructure system and also the governance of that city from the municipality. And those are the parameters, of course, we all Kenyans feel like Eldoret town still, it has a long way to go to be able to serve or to give city-like or city status services to the people, because also the capacity and the ability to serve or to give centralized services to its residents, it also has to, of course, give some time for it to grow into such a status.
And when Hans Rop, after Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and even Nakuru, Do you feel that probably we're rushing this, that we should a bit, slow down a bit in elevating some of these urban centers that definitely some deserve a lot more growth? Or is the elevation into city status now an indication that this will be the beginning of growth for that town?
Good morning, Fred. And first allow me to give a congratulatory message to these patriot Kenyans who have brought us medals and good name worldwide. And also to appreciate the government who have shown some really good attention to them, to motivate them in some kind of tokens, in terms of money, and maybe you see the kind of attention they were given. Going back to the question, I will love a different kind of view. You know, city status means that there are many things that will be observed that will come in. There are both pros and cons. If we get on the benefits that a city will get, or maybe maybe a place, a town, municipality will get when it comes to a city, is that there'll be some extra funding from the national government on other things that can be done, like sewage management, among others. Also, there'll be a lot of, they'll attract more funding, even from World Bank and others. So it means it's strategically good, actually, to build up and develop a town and to get more benefits. One of the disadvantages that it might increase also a lot of tariffs and so on, whereby it can affect also mwananchi. But at well, they may end up getting a better road, good hospitals, and so on. To say if we are rushing, I would think, no, we are long overdue. And somewhere yesterday we were having a discussion with some friends and we were thinking that at least a town should be developed in every county. And this is going to improve more opportunities on employment, more industries coming, more partners coming. It helps develop the country. And if you check for Eldoret, I think it is long overdue. Because if you check some of the kind of expectations that are there to be met for a town to be made a city is one, they should be having a airport, a national airport, whereby Eldoret has. They need to have a university, where they have more than one university. They need to have one national hospital, whereby there is MTRH. You can check there's also population. They should have a minimum of around 250,000 population, and Eldoret have a close to 500,000 in population. Revenue allocation. You see, last year they managed to raise around almost $1 billion shillings. And room for expansion. In Eldoret, there's a very good room for expansion, but on all the round sites. One of the weaknesses that maybe we would discuss here today is the kind of statues that were placed in. And I really felt ashamed of the town that I come from. And those who are planning it, they should have done it better. There was no need to do it in a hurry. They would have waited and put actually strategic statues that can market the town. Because there's already an image, despite the fact they chose not to place in or remove those that were already there, they still it gives a certain discussion that is unnecessary, actually. But to my observation, I think it was long overdue. And it is better to go, maybe to go to other towns and make them cities. It will help improve and develop this country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bwana Kamanya, what's your take on this? Because there's also an indication that it could also bring some political implications, because Eldoret town, yes, it serves as a headquarters of Uasin Gishu County, but Nandi County can also lay claim to parts of Eldoret town, and I think another one county. So what do you think will happen? Elgeyo Marakwet, what happens going forward once you elevate it into a city?
Well, a very good morning to our viewers, and allow me to attach myself to the sentiments of my panelists in congratulating the athletes. They did well. They hoisted our flag high. That was good for Kenya. I think we came out as #1 in Africa. That was good. Apparently, we have another competition going on of senior citizens. I'm waiting to see how we do. But I like that at least there's something positive to smile about. Now, regarding the conferment of city status to Eldoret, in principle, it's all right, because that's the way to go as a country. But in terms of timing, it brings a lot of questions. There's a lot of suspicion around it and why now, why so fast? Because it is clear, constitutionally speaking, that there are certain benchmarks a town, a municipality ought to hit for it to be conferred status of a city. And Eldoret has done some work. Yes, they do have an airport. They have the basics, but not fully satisfactorily so. So for me, the question is why now? You know, this could have waited a year or two until Eldoret is very fully organized. Because when I look at the other 4 cities that we have, including the capital we are in, there is no city to model upon. There is no city to benchmark on.
Nakuru, for example, doesn't have a proper airport.
Nakuru doesn't have. Nairobi itself, we are still grappling with the service provision. You look at the waste, I mean, because that's the primary concern when it comes to now having a city. The waste management in Nairobi is a crisis. Health facilities, a crisis. Water, a crisis. You know, there are residents who get seasonal water once a week, twice a week, you know. Even the housing, because what I feel we are failing on is the planning aspect of modernizing our country. It is okay, we need to confer the more cities, but we need to have a proper strategic physical planning approach. You go to other countries, you go to other regions, you realize they have what you call controlled development. And I heard the president yesterday alluding to that Uasin Gishu residents ought to be very careful in segmenting their land, because it is largely agricultural. And if they continue to, you know, have it into smaller pieces, that of course is going to affect the food production and the planning of the city by itself. A case in point is the Kiambu County. It was largely an agricultural area. Now it has become it's a bedroom of Nairobi. It's a bedroom of the country. And you can see the impact that has on the climate, the impact that has on food provision. Because if you confer it as a city status, you must expect migration from the surrounding rural areas. Those people need to feed. Those people will provide waste. How do you manage that? So I think for me, the greater concern is not whether it is a city or still a town, because whether it is a car, an automobile or vehicle, I mean, it's still the same thing. But for me, the concern is the physical planning, because if we do not get that one right, there are some things that are not reversible as you move in time. Eldoret may have the virginity of time, but they still have a lot of unexploited land, so they can plan better. And I just hope they get it right.
Okay.
And then also they have to be very open to that. One of the other qualifications, other than the infrastructure, for any place to be conferred the city status, is it has to be cosmopolitan. So they must expect now an exodus from the surrounding counties to Eldoret.
Okay. Yeah. Do we, in the management of all the cities we have, because they're basically managed by the devolved systems of government, like the county governors run the cities. What do you think of that system? We've seen what has happened to Nakuru, to Nairobi, for example, but this is basically the biggest urban center. Places like Nakuru town has a bigger Nakuru County, still managed by the same county government. Do you think there's a challenge there, that probably we should go back, if we have a city, it should be run by a mayor?
I think we got a big issue when it comes to running cities the same way we are running the county governments. Because, for example, giving to an example, a scenario like Nairobi County. So Nairobi City, the capital city of Kenya, is still run by the county government the same way a county like Embu or Nyeri is still run by the same county government. So there is a big challenge when it comes to the governance, because it has, of course, a city need to have a demonstrable good system and good governance. And the same way the county government that is agricultural, and that promotes agriculture, like Nyeri, let's say, for example, where there are no demands for city status services, or they are not demands for city status infrastructure. And then a city like Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, or Nakuru, where the same county government, the same funding, the same model, the same system is being used to run the same capital cities, then it's become a big challenge for them to actually effectively and efficiently deliver services to the people of the residents. Because the same way we are managing our system of governance as a county government. For example, when it comes to waste management and disaster management, you find that these cities, they have no centralized operation, because they are relying on the same person or the same office that another person in the outskirts of this city is still relying on the same office. So it is high time we also need to rethink about the urban areas and cities act, so that we can be able to actually have a shield and a good governance system that is able to manage the welfare and affairs of a city. And of course, that will come with more finances, because it will bring on board maybe municipal councils or city councils into the light. And the way we are saying that, should we have mayors or another tier of governance to govern these cities? Of course, I need that is the why the article the Act, Urban Areas and Cities Act gave room for active participation when it comes to conferring of cities to the residents, so that they can give policy views, they can give policy insights on whether we need to actually, or how we can advance the welfares and affairs of a city, so that the services are effectively and efficiently managed. So it is high time for us to think, how would we better manage these cities? And I think we need, of course, a board or a council that is able to manage
specifically for the cities. Yeah. Because a county like Uasin Gishu, where Eldoret is largely domiciled, is largely a rural county. But then having a city inside there and having the same governor managing the county and the city, that could bring a problem, don't you think?
Yeah, actually, I have, when it comes to something like a city, I love some reservations of its management, maybe from using a political kind of leadership. If you think also of coming up with a mayor used to be a councillor then. You used to be one of, so likely if we have a mayor today, it will be one of the MCS being voted by other MCS to become a mayor. So it still has some kind of politics in it. If you give it to the national government, there could also be problem with about distribution of resources and so on, like what you are facing with the counties. I really do not know what we need to do, but I would wish there is an independent way whereby either it can be run, I don't know, it can be run like a parastatal, whereby maybe a CEO comes see, so that at least we have proper expertise who can run a city, other than politicizing it. Because you realize if somebody has a business in town and maybe you're not in good terms with the leadership of the county, your business may end up being affected on licenses and so on. That still affects employment opportunities and delivery in town. And again, if maybe you're not competent enough, but you're a good friend to the leadership or governor, you may end up being given an opportunity. That's maybe poor quality of productions, poor deliveries, nothing good be given to the residents. It has its pros and cons. And I really wish if we get away that we get maybe a municipal manager in town or a board or a CEO of a city is maybe appointed in a different way, so that they deliver not based on maybe politics or favorism, so that at least we might be able to receive standard kind of services to Mwananchi. It may be just to give some kind of response to Josephat, is that if you check the process of Eldoret being made a city, that process began even before the previous election. It began around from around 2018, 19. So it's not actually necessarily that it has to be questionable on the time that is being given. Or if you study the whole process that's gone through all day from county assembly to the governor, to the appointing of the committee, back to the county assembly, to the clerk, to the Senate clerk, until now it is being installed. And also for cosmopolitancy in Eldoret, you know, Eldoret is a different town. At times, politically, there is a different image, but residents in Eldoret from all kinds of tribes in Kenya. Actually, we have, I think for the wards that get into town, there are almost like 7, I think so, or 6. 3 representatives are from other tribes. We have one called Langas ward. It's represented by someone, a Kikuyu, Roma, and then we have another used to be represented by a Luo for over 20 years in Eldoret. So I think Eldoret still actually was overdue to become a city, and we still support what the president's done.
Okay. If we could use Nairobi as a reference point, as a capital city, we've had problems with how it has been managed. And one wonders, because there've been suggestions that Nairobi should be reverted back to the central government. Probably its management needs to be different from devolved systems. Now, running a city elsewhere, depending on the current devolved systems of government that are already problematic in themselves, could be foolhardy. We are setting ourselves up for failure, don't you think?
Well, I'm of the opinion that we cannot cherry pick where to be efficient as a country. I think it would be a raw deal to Kenyans if we assume to have a better management for the cities and then leave the counties to the rogue agency or mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. So my concern, yes, I agree, we've had challenges, because remember, even in the capital we had to call for NMS to take over the former management before the current governor. But I deeply wonder why we are not focusing on efficiency and provision of a better public policy across board. Every governor in this country handles not a minimum of 8 billion per year. So if they are not efficient, if they are not prudent in managing that kind of a resource for their people, they do not deserve to be in that office. Because duplicating that function by bringing now on board either a board or whatever, a city management team in the conferred counties to city status, also will bring a burden of financial duplication. So it is wastage of resources. What I think we need to work on as Kenyans is on how is the selection process of the people we let into office, so that if you become the governor of Nairobi, you're the governor of the capital city. And these are the needs that are required. This is what I expected of you as a leader of that county. Because changing any of this needs us to go back to the constitution, and then we may call for a referendum.
I'm just thinking like something that mirrors what happens in the US. A state like New York State is run separately. The New York City has its own mayor.
Yes.
Because it has different needs from the larger state, which has its governor already there.
I agree. But what will happen when we have all the 47 counties, or half of them, conferred into city status? You know, it's a duplication of resources and function that I'm concerned about. We need to work more on efficiency, because if we had effective governors, even in Uasin Gishu, or here in Nairobi, or in Nakuru, there will be no need. So when we say that we may need to have an alternative management system for the city, are we saying that we do not have confidence in the county management, which I agree we do not have?
What about counties that have more than one town that could develop into cities? An example, Nakuru County has Nakuru City and Naivasha, which is still a bigger town. Can one governor manage 2 cities if at all Naivasha was to be elevated into city status?
Just to give you a nice back on that, actually it is not the whole county that is...
It's just the town.
It's the municipality. First you become a municipality, then it's improved to a city. And the reason for city status, if you see the reasons for city status, is to make it attract investors to attract kind of developments that are of city status. And even when the government is sharing its cake, it shares to the cities certain kind of benefits. And that's actually what is going to the ground to benefit a resident of that town and improve the country to a certain kind of developed status. It's not, and that's why it might be more than one, it might be a bigger job for the governor. It should be a list.
Even Kiambu as Kiambu town and Thika town as well. Managing those two separately as a governor, if they are both to be elevated, because Thika used to have a mayor.
Exactly.
And Kiambu used to have a mayor as well.
And even
I think when you are conferring these municipals or urban areas into as to a city status. Of course, these are areas that are very strategic, and I add on what Hans has said, that these are areas that are very strategic when it comes to investment attraction, that are areas that have a capacity to centralize services to a large number or a large group of population of people. So these areas, of course, it needs to have a significant manner into which this city is incorporating the services that people are deemed to all ought to have been with. And centralizing these services, it comes with the security capacities, security capabilities of such an area. And of course, it also been able to have an industrial capability that it can be able to set up industries for the promotion and collection revenue, because it has to have its own way of getting revenue to sustain itself, because we cannot just have the cities that are dependables, that they are depending with the national government, depending with the county government for their survival. So it becomes hard even to run such a city, because we need sustainability of that city. So the business and the operations that are being run in that city can be able to collect its sufficient revenue for its operation and development going forward. So in terms of attraction of the investments, of course, the significance of having a city very strategic, it's because it is able to attract not only domestic investment but also foreign investment. And as Eldoret town is a place where it is strategically placed, of course, being in the Great Rift, and it is high time also we have political sentiments that are positive, that are attractive to investments, because looking at the back what are the sentiments that there was a time there had been grievances, so there was a political sentiment that the lands that are in Rift Valley, or the land that is in Rift Valley, belongs to the Kalenjins of those people residing there. So of course they have to grow up on that sentiments, because they have to attract people. The people must come there. They must own lands. Of course, how Kamanya said that being a cosmopolitan area, of course, it is the whole city or the whole now region incorporating and bringing more people from different regions, from different tribes, from different religious affiliations to come there and mingle with each other. These people will set their homes there. Of course, they do the operations there. So it is a time we incorporate each other, and then they cannot, there's no man is self-sufficient. So Eldoret cannot be self-sufficient by its own local people that are living there. So new foreigners will come in so that town can develop, and then big industries and businesses can be set up there.
But Kamanya, do you see a risk in having another layer of governance for urban centers in particular, because the defunct municipal councils used to do that job before this county government came in? There could be challenges in one county government running two urban centers. Those that benefit are the ones where the county headquarters is domiciled. Like Nakuru town definitely would have better advantage as compared to Naivasha. Kiambu town would have an advantage over Thika town. There was even an argument on whether to move the headquarters of Kiambu County to Thika town, because they know that is what would work there. So when you have an urban center that is not the headquarters of the county, how does it develop? without its own administration? And is there a risk of having another layer of administration over the devolved systems?
If you look at our neighbors in Tanzania, the capital is Dodoma, but they have another city, Dar es Salaam. So most of the government functions are domiciled in Dodoma. And many other countries, if you look across the continent, go to South Africa, you have Pretoria, you have Cape Town, then you have Johannesburg. My concern, as you rightly put it, is that should we develop another layer of management, we'll be duplicating and overshadowing an already devolved system where we have now the county governance system. I do not feel that we'll be disadvantaging some towns where necessarily the county offices are not domiciled. If we are able to allow the engineers, the county officers, and the CECs to do their work. Because if you put up a municipality or a city management team, you still need to incorporate whatever county system you're working with to run and offer the services. What I would call for is a harmonization of the services that are needed within the city and the surrounding areas. Because again, right now, the country is grappling with a higher tier of management, which is the national government, and a second tier, which is the county government. Remember, they are meant to collaborate. We are supposed to have devolution continuously over time, where function will be followed by resources. But that is not yet happening. In time, we can have specialized management city teams when counties are able to raise their own on-source revenue. Then they can decide how to run their own city, if they have one.
Wouldn't it work the other way around, that if you give different towns their own management, they would be able to probably raise more revenue to develop their own projects?
But as is now, all counties are still dependent on the national government. And there is no single independent county in the country whereby they are able to fully be self-sufficient. Should they grow to that end, then they will not need, it will justify that move because they'll have more needs to raise, they have the resources to address that. So my concern for now is the efficiency that we are lacking right now. If we start duplicating, remember every time we keep hearing that all the revenue we are collecting goes to the recurrent wage bill. How much do we want to expand that? You know, I think we've hit our limit. It's about time we start thinking thinly and rationally so that we can be more efficient as a country. If Eldoret has been conferred as a city, they need to have a better plan on how to manage their resources. I know the irresistible appetite for grants that will come in upgrading the city is what is also driving some people to say it is fine. But at the risk of, in time, collapsing that city and offering a disservice to the residents of that area.
All right.
Yeah.
It is a discussion that's on all the front pages. The conferment of city status to Eldoret, what was formerly Eldoret municipality, is now the City of Champions, Eldoret. I want us to take a look at the other headline on the same paper. Kenyans get a raw deal on fuel prices. We see, and they say motorists are now paying up to 21 shillings per litre of fuel in what is now illegal taxes as the government continues to defy court orders that struck out both the Finance Act of 2023, which doubled VAT to 16%, and a raise in roads maintenance levy by 7%, which was declared illegal also by the courts. But EPRA on Wednesday this week said everything stays as it is, despite the court orders. And we keep saying we are a country that's governed by the rule of law. This open defiance of court orders says a lot of things because whoever is aggrieved by any court pronouncement should ideally appeal the same. But open defiance of the same says a lot about the governance of this country.
Yes, sure. I remember very clearly that the Finance Bill 2023 actually was swapped by the courts, and that's when the court issued an order of not apprehending this Finance Bill 2023. But again, they overcame, or the government overcame the order and actually decided to not use it and use the Finance Bill 2023. And this is the repercussion that we're having today, because the defilement or the open defilement of the court orders and the same feeling that made actually the Gen Z to rise up because of the unconstitutionalism and the zero regard of our rule of law. Because when we do not obey our court orders, neither are we expecting that we shall follow our constitutions and the guideline and regulations set to the latter. And number one principality of a good governance is that we are able to follow the rule of law, the set guidelines that we as Kenyans have set together, so that we can be able to have a unified and a common governance and a good leadership. So when someone feels that he's bigger or big than the law, then it's become so hard for each and every Kenyans to be able to accommodate each other. So this finance, the 2023 finance bill, of course, it doubled the fuel levy and the road maintenance levy to 7 shillings. And that is actually another case when people raised up. And of course, it also incorporated the housing tax, or what it used to be termed as a duty. And Kenyans gave their views. Of course, they felt that it is not necessary. It is not the time for this government to add more taxes or to ask for more or dig deep into Kenyans' pocket, but rather to confide onto what the previous government, or what the capacity and the capability of a common Kenyan is living upon today. So it is time for this government, of course, to look on issues when it comes to the rule of law, the issues when it comes to our courts, and of course the judiciary and the court orders, because the three arms of government ought to be independent, and of course need to also act interdependently. So there is a big liaison between the three arms of government, and when one arm of government feels it's bigger or it's more influential than the other, then it becomes hard for each and every or the coordination and cooperation of these three tiers.
Hence, of course, the EPRA may argue that the turnaround time between when you import fuel from wherever we get it from and when these declarations by the courts are made, that you've already spent the money. That probably some of these declarations by courts are overtaken by events. Probably the benefit would come later. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I really do not agree with that, because if you check the reasons why EPRA increases fuel, it has a lot of things in it. And it comes with, I've come to study and realize that even as we get new developments as a country, it comes with a cost. Every time we ask for something better, like if we ask for a better road, it comes with a cost of maintaining it. So, Ministry of Roads have explained that there are some of the roads that were constructed, but their budget of maintenance was never there. We never oversaw a budget of maintaining it coming. Like maintaining a Thika Road costs Ministry of Roads 800 million shillings per year. Mm-hmm. So that's a serious. So we haven't gone to bypasses, southern bypass, northern bypasses, and other ones. So one of the reasons why today you see we have fuel levy is to maintain the roads we have. Because if we check the roads we have today and we use them when they are in bad state, after 3 years, a road begins to be maintained, and it needs finance for it. So the budgets we've been having are for expansions. We've not been having a budget for maintenance. So for you to maintain expansion and also be in place to maintain the roads, you need to have to go extra and add some taxes. And that's why EPRA has gone to, maybe Ministry have chosen to go under the fuel levy to manage it. And for what the courts are maybe ruled over is that I've come to know one thing. At times we judge different arms of government different, but they're the same human beings. It's me, a Kenyan, and you, a Kenyan, who is in the judiciary, who is in the national government, who is in the parliament, you see, in the executive. So why is it that we would judge people in parliament differently, those in the judiciary differently? They are the same characters, they're the same monkeys, but in just different forests. Because you'll study that in judiciary, somebody can still use the same human being in judiciary, or just like a human being in executive or in parliament, to make sure that a process in government is halted for his benefit. People would even go to the judiciary and maybe do some kind of, what do you call it? Maybe buy a judge and maybe convince him otherwise to make a different kind of ruling.
Are you saying there are instances where defiance of court orders is justified or justifiable?
Let me tell you, there's a lot of corruption in judiciary. And most of the decisions that are given in judiciary, you know, we've assumed just because there must be rule of law, everything that a judge is giving must be 100% correct. At times they're used to maybe to humiliate or kill an idea that could benefit.
I want someone to challenge that assertion.
Well, allow me, if I may.
Yeah.
And I think, Hans, you did not just accuse the judiciary of being corrupt and fighting the government. Clearly, and you must have a very hard time to defend corruption, in-depth corruption. Because every time there is contracting of roads, especially Thika Road, maintenance is catered for the next, I think, up to 15 years. And Kenyans have been getting a road deal. This is the inefficiency and incompetency we keep referring to, especially in this current administration. Because even when Thika Road was put up, just to mention, to date, there are still some footbridges that are not in existence. But they were quoted in the contract. We keep losing lives. Ruiru and Juja, you know, guys have to cross over. And I don't know who advised our engineers that bumps are a safety mechanism. That is corruption 101. Now, when it comes to hiking and, rather defying of the court orders, we cannot have doublespeak. When the president comes out and says you're going to be a country of the rule of law, there is no higher authority that enforces the law than the courts. So, if for some reason the government is disgruntled, as Hans is trying to purport, by a decision from the judiciary, from the courts, they should appeal, because this is the due process that we follow. Even when you have electoral disputes, it's the same thing. You go, you appeal, and then if you lose, you lose. We cannot have a situation whereby the government wakes up one morning and says, that decision does not sit well with us, we are going to defy it. That is not a country that is governed by the rule of law. Our supremacy lies in the Constitution. So anybody who violates that is violating the rights of Kenyans. Actually, they need to face the penal code, because whoever was supposed to enforce the revision that has been suggested from the judgment needs to be held accountable. Whether it is the current minister or whoever it is needs to be held accountable. We cannot tolerate that anymore, Hans. This is a country whereby we are trying to salvage ourselves from roadside declarations, outright violation and defiance on from the judiciary. And this is what takes us, even people, to the streets, because if we are not going to listen to the court, who are you going to listen to? If when you go to the legislative arm of government, the National Assembly, they make laws that are challenged in court. We had the case in point of the National Housing Levy. You know, it's been back and forth to date. It's not clear on the final status. Just the other day, we had the same judgment on the SHIF, you know, the Social Health Insurance Fund. But the government is still, and this term is becoming very popular, and the government needs to be very careful, is still tone deaf on exactly what Kenyans are saying. Kenyans speak through the laws that we have set. If I'm not comfortable by any dispute we may have with you as a person or as an institution, then we are subjected to the law. Whatever the outcome needs to be respected. If not so, it needs to be challenged. We must respect the institutional independence of this nation if we are to proceed. Otherwise, if we set this precedent, there is no problem with you even going and declaring yourself as a president and starting to act and run a shadow government of this nation.
Fred, just to give a response to Josephat, what happens? Do you really think that is 100% integrity in judiciary? Obvious no.
But there are
addressing
lack of integrity in the judiciary.
You know, my thinking is the same thing. We have also we are just discussing a court order that's been given. It doesn't mean that I support everything that the government is doing. At times, we also have a government fighting judiciary by maybe reducing their funding and so on.
Why are we equating defiance of a court order to defying or fighting the judiciary?
We are not equating. Actually, Fred, we are talking on situation that judiciary accept to be used by people who are not interested in a certain idea to maybe give a certain court order. And we cannot say that all court orders today that are given are by the courts are in line without the system.
So how do we choose which one to comply with and which one to defy?
Let me give you a very good example before we choose which one to defy. Like the way city status are being given to Eldoret today. Many people don't know that tariffs will go high. Tomorrow when some of the tariffs go high, maybe today you pay 100 shillings for parking in Eldoret. Maybe in the next financial year, maybe they'll make it 150 shillings or 200 shillings. Then people will come demonstrating and go to court. And then a court order is given. How do you balance that? How do you tell now a governor not to make a parking fee in Eldoret 200 shillings?
But as long as it's challenged in court and there's a decision by the courts, that's final. Because which one do we...
and that's what we are saying. And you know, at times, Fred, we need to see it in different kind of angles. And I always say there is more than one meets the eye. It's not necessarily that people who have gone to court had good intention. And maybe they have succeeded to get a court order.
So we should defy that one?
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I'm not saying we should defy it. What I'm trying to say is this: we should really encourage judiciary and also Kenyans and also all departments of Kenya to think broadly about how we can grow the country and give a real proper...
The concern now is defiance of the court orders.
And you see legislative agenda that the government is promoting. And for a court to actually nullify or a court to give a court order to halt the development of that policy, then maybe it does not meet the legality or it did not meet the set procedural or process for that policies to become an act of parliament or to become a law into this Republic of Kenya. And we have an issue when it comes to how we are bringing or how we are making our policies, our public policy, because if a public policy is not long due beneficial, is a long term is not giving us a long term benefit to the people, then and its cost is higher than the investment return that we expect from such a policy, then there is a high chance that the court would halt such a development. And the courts are there to adjudicate these laws that are made from Parliament. And any time a court feels that this law is not sufficient or this law is not good enough for a country, or it did not meet the required threshold for it to be termed as a policy or a public policy, then it has a legal mandate to halt that until such a process. Of course, it does not throw it away. It just gives a leeway to get the bill back to Parliament or such a policy back to the intended or the conveners of such a policy to better it, to develop it in a moral way, of course, in a legal way, so that it can be legal, of course, and of course it can be more beneficial and more conducive for the Kenyan people. So I think the issue here we have with the the defilement of a court order is the big man syndrome. You know, when the dawn becomes the dawn's words become the law, then we have a problem, because we no longer follow the constitution, but we follow the man's word.
And the Attorney General nominee Dorcas Oduor, during her vetting, she made this clear. She was asked directly the question: how come this administration is facing a lot of legal challenges? A lot of this government policy or pieces of legislation proposed, even once passed by Parliament, they end up being halted by the courts. And she said probably it's a lack of understanding, and I'm just paraphrasing, not using the words, of the Constitution 2010, that we are still in the formative stages of implementing the Constitution, and we are yet to get there. And most of these people working on these pieces of legislation do not understand what exactly, or are not in line or in tune with the Constitution 2010. Do you agree that most of the people, probably even in the legislature, are simply ignorant of the provisions of the Constitution that currently governs us?
Well, she simply confirmed what we have been saying, that we have a very incompetent National Assembly, because that's the genesis of all this litigation that the government is facing. And so I do agree with her on the part of incompetence. And further to that, you know, we are free to make our choices, but we are not free from the consequences of our choices. That's something we must always bear in mind, that the moment you open a leeway that we can have our way against the law, yet we claim to be a country that is under the rule of law, you don't know how far that can stretch. That is one. Two, just to mention about now the repercussions of a city being conferred, a municipality being conferred to city status, and then the repercussions of that, higher tariffs and taxes and levies. That was to be addressed during the principle and the concept of public participation. People of Eldoret ought to have known that upon conferment to a city status, this is what to expect. So that then we don't sit down and say, oh, now you're raising parking fee, you're charging us for this other service. No, I spoke about efficiency and physical and proper planning. It starts with that. Involve the people. This is their city. Do effective and efficient public participation. Let people know what to expect. Let people know how to support the development of their area. Then when it comes to the country, we are the taxpayers. Kenyans, we are not afraid to pay taxes, and no one says we do not want to pay taxes. The concern we have always had is the pilferage, the wastage, the mismanagement, the misappropriation of this revenue that is collected. Now, if a government comes and says, okay, we are not going to reduce, as directed by the verdict from the court, what are Kenyans expected to do? The next time they raise or they hike the fuel prices, can Kenyans also equally decide not to pay more? You know, and I know right now we are consuming the quota we last bought towards the end of last year. So fuel prices are going to be going high from the month of October going onward. So can Kenyans also equally now decide we are not going to listen to what the government says or any other independent agency suggests, we are going to do it differently? We cannot have such a, that would be anarchy now. And this is the government taking the lead on how to have a country with no order.
Okay, and that's a big headline on the front page of the Standard. Kenyans get a raw deal on fuel prices. All right, let's take a look at what's big on the front page of the Daily Nation. Matters education. It's been a while we've not had a headline on education on the front pages. So a shutdown is looming in schools and universities. Candidates sitting national exams would be hard hit should teachers' unions go ahead with their planned strike next term to push for higher pay and promotions, among other grievances. Meanwhile, university lecturers have also joined the fray in a move that would disrupt learning in the country. Generally, when you look at the handling, and this, because on Fridays we usually focus on the youth, it is a youth perspective. Education is key to them. We've seen the kind of uprising mainly led by the younger generation in this country over the last few weeks and few months. It is born out of frustration basically by some of them inability to access education. The university funding model that the president directed the communication to be made better was part of it as well. That we seem to have mishandled education to a point where many people feel disenfranchised. Young Kenyans feel disenfranchised. If this happens, this could in itself revive the kind of agitation we're seeing from the younger generation, don't you think?
For sure. Since this government came in, we have been having a very paralyzed education system. A very big confusion has come to education system, because at first when they came, there was a big confusion on the GSS, the junior secondary. Where do we place them? Where their location?
It still persists.
Yeah, it still persists. Even today, we are still talking about the GSS teachers. We have very few teachers. We have no adequate teachers to actually get to these GSS classes. So in terms of the education sector, I think at first, and I have termed it there before, that our education system, we are joking around with a very serious sector that we need to have put our dogs and our hearts all together into that sector, so that we can see it not being paralyzed, but actually promoting it further and giving it more resources, so that it can be stable. And because if the shutdowns of the school and university comes in at a time when the students are getting back for that time, when you have candidates preparing for their KCSE examinations. So of course you see that other than having other natural issues that have hampered our education system and have altered with the education corridor, then having our teachers and university staffs getting to a strike because they have some deeds. Of course, they feel that the government is not giving them more attention on to, because what they are lamenting about more teachers, of course, more teachers to be employed, especially the GSS teachers, and also they need the CBA to be looked at, so that they can be their salaries can be adjusted just the way other civil servant salaries are being adjusted, and also looking at the issue of employing more teachers into the school, and also promoting the same teachers. That's a big issue. I think we need to look if the teachers, if we have to maintain these teachers, of course, it is high time to call on the stakeholders, the TSC and the Ministry of Education to come on board, of course, because they need to listen to each other. They need to listen to these grievances. This ministry is there, or this agency or the corporate, the TSC, it's there for the teachers, of course, to see that the teachers' pride is looked at. These teachers will not go to the medical agency, or they do not go to health, the Ministry of Health, to ask for their pride to be listened to. They have to go to the man, and I think the minister, the cabinet minister Migos, is the last man to handle this issue. Even if it is just very early for him in this ministry, because he's a new cabinet, I think he's the last man to handle this issue. So it is for him to listen to what the teachers are talking, and also to be able to have sitting and understanding with the TSC, so that we can maintain our teachers and our schools in our students in school.
Hans, part of the very first actions the president took immediately after taking over in 2022, actually on 30th of September 2022, is that he appointed a presidential working party on education reform in Kenya. This is actually 2 years later. And the problems appear to be increasing and not being fixed. What do you think is wrong with the education sector? How come we got it so wrong, despite the involvement of so many stakeholders?
One is, Kenya has a problem with raising funds to fund its programs. And failure of the finance bill would be more challenging in education, because you realize the government had tried to put a lot of budget, around 659 billion, almost 27% of its budget in education. And we're trying to cap those issues, whereby employment of teachers, making sure that there is more schools being built, school programs, feeding programs, university funding. And it's going to make it difficult, because we do not have enough funding. And my thinking also goes like, Minister of Education is so big that it needs more than one cabinet secretaries, more than 2 PSS. They should broaden the management and maybe regionalize it to make sure that they achieve the intended purposes. Because if it's too big and huge, then I think even the CS might not be aware what could be going in all the departments, maybe of education, and you cannot only rely on what you're being briefed. I think the government should regionalize its operations and have many managers or many heads of departments or regions to make sure that at least we're able to know the problem that at least is going on in the ground and be able to give direct service to the students. Again, if we go, but if we just give hope upon what the government has told us on, I'm some feelings a bit about education, because I want to see what the government proposing really working out, and we are pushing the government to do so. Because if you check, like now, the president was telling us that he's increased the help from 44 billion to 82 billion, whereby if that money is really there, then it's going to help students who are in university maybe to access education and at least be able to achieve their dreams. Free education should be actualized. Security in places that are of, maybe there are a lot of dangers and insecurities like valleys and so on, in Pokot and so on, should be made, should be given actually proper education. We've seen the government going ahead and using the Kenya Defense Forces to build schools and put camps there to make sure that there's security. We hope it works so that at least we have a betterness. And just to check,
for example, I agree with the new university funding model that was proposed by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms. Do you think because it would appear the administration is really having problems with it, and the president has to keep on pronouncing himself on the matter?
I give my go ahead for such, because there are people in this country who God has placed them and have ability to maybe pay school fees and so on. And at times when there is no criteria to give out help loan, and maybe anybody qualifies, and maybe the funding might not be enough to everyone, then it means that there could be a situation whereby less fortunate or somebody who was really in need of this help loan do not get it, and maybe somebody who has some overflow still got it and maybe don't mind paying back when he gets unemployment. I think there should be a system whereby at least that funding goes to the intended purposes to help and maybe alleviate those who are not in a position to maybe manage themselves in school or pay their school fees. I support on that context.
But the feeling, Borakamanya, is that this administration has not been able to have a proper grasp on the education sector. They seem to be clutching on straws. Things are not going right. CBC is still in shambles. JSS is a total confusion. The university funding model has disenfranchised students. Some who would have pursued medicine have given up altogether because the cost they were given in the admission letters was too exorbitant and they failed to do it. Don't you think that probably this Presidential Working Party on education reforms was not as consequential or as positively consequential as we would have hoped for?
I even would have wanted to have an elaborate understanding of the report they presented to the president, because if there is one thing that this administration has missed the mark on, is education. And health is worse, but education is equally exacerbating. The situation is getting worse, as you rightly put it, from the JSS, from the capitation, we've had issues. It's delayed. It was never as promised. And then you have the CBA, issue that keeps cropping up now and then. I feel that for far too long, and I've said this before, that this government is dealing with systemic issues. And the reason that the President Ruto is going to have more challenges, this is just the beginning of it, because now every sector will start unfolding their own issues and making demands. I think for the next 18 months, I see us having demonstration, riots and threats in terms of not working from various agencies, from the government. Because of there have been a lot of imploding, a lot of anger that is pent up, and now people are tired. You saw in the last protest with Gen Z revolution, policemen joining you know, which was unheard of. Therefore, the president must realize that what he's dealing with is systemic issues, and he cannot offer plastic solutions. He cannot offer a roadside declaration to a systemic problem. When we talk about education, for a long time, we've been allowing our education system to be run mainly by the private sector. If you look at the public schools, especially the primary schools, they're dilapidated, they're underfunded, they're overcrowded, and the performance is always dismal. There has been a trend, a very positive trajectory performance from the private schools, but the public schools, you know, they're just left to be. So long as a kid is going to a classroom, then that's almost acceptable. We must say no to that. We need an overhaul of our education system. And I pity Migos because I see the Daily Nation says baptism of fire as the new education minister, who has not, for him, as he has not even settled in office. He is going to have it rough. And if he means well for this country, given the docket that he has recently assumed, I think he better develop an action plan, collaborate, whatever the president was presented with from the team that he had put together, if there is any from that, and also come out clearly and address the outlying issues. Teachers are a vital service provision body to this nation, equally just like the doctors, just like the police force. The moment we start ignoring their needs, we are putting our children at risk. Remember, the growth, the rampant growth we're experiencing now in terms of the democratic space, and demand for a better public policy from the Gen Z revolution is courtesy of the free education that was provided by the late President Kibaki. Therefore, when we start dealing with education in a wishy-washy manner, which is a greater equalizer, we are giving our country a raw deal in days to come. We need to stand firm as a nation. The president needs to offer direction. The ministry, I don't believe in expanding positions because, you know, even in every sub-county, we have what used to be the district officer. There is no gap in terms of management of our education system. They just need to harmonize. And once they do, because from the sub-county to the county, then to the national level, we have all these agents. They need to collaborate the information. They need to come up with an action plan, because if every now and then we are having strikes, if every now and then we are grappling with natural calamities, remember from the flooding, recent flooding that we experienced, a lot of schools suffered. A lot of schools were not repaired. A lot of people were not supported to go back to school in terms of desk, uniform, books. Parents had to go back to their pocket. And some of these areas were very marginalized and, you know, low-income earners. So at what point will the government really understand that to develop a nation, you need to develop the people? And there is no better way than offering education.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's a headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Shutdown looms in schools and universities. And they've listed a list of grievances that the teachers have. They have at least 8 there on the front page of the Daily Nation. These are teachers from primary and secondary schools. Meanwhile, the university lecturers are talking about persistent salary delays and part payment of salaries. That's just part of their grievances. 10 grievances in total there on the front page of the Daily Nation. And I want us to draw your attention to the cartoon on the Star this morning. It has 4 gentlemen. If my director can help me with that, the cartoon on the Star. Yes. It has a caricature of the president, the former prime minister, the retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the current deputy president. And it talks about the reasons or return of the name Uhuru Kenyatta to the front pages. He is there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Gachagua allies now challenge Uhuru on Ruto deal with Raila. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Meanwhile, on the front page of Taifa Leo, that's the main story. Sema Uhuru achokozwa. Viongozi wa siasa Mlima Kenya wamtaka rais mstaafu aseme ukweli iwapo ndiye alimtuma Raila kwa Ruto. Now, the name of the deputy president, in fact, we had gotten to a point where we were almost forgetting him. It was a foregone conclusion. We were retired. Now we are seeing that more and more very senior politicians are invoking the name of the retired president. to suit their own narratives. The deputy president has been saying that he has been in touch with the retired president towards uniting the Mount Kenya region. Then, from nowhere, Raila Odinga, the former prime minister, comes and says he has been in touch with the retired president, and he was asked to actually assist and rescue the government of William Ruto. So which is which? And why do you think it's necessary right now for everyone or anyone to invoke the name of the retired president?
Well, I still think former President Uhuru Kenyatta is still the charming political animal at the time. And at the time when politics looks more polarized and interest competitions are coming up, and new alignments are about to be formed. And of course now, being a gentleman who has been a president, and of course a person who still uses a lot of influence when it comes to politics of this country, and especially the politics of Mount Kenya, then he's not a person that, a politician that wants to really make a big step forward, I would actually ignore. So President Uhuru Kenyatta being mentioned by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua during his interview. Of course, he said that he has been speaking with former President Uhuru Kenyatta for one cause, unity of purpose for Mount Kenya people. We want to agree that in Mount Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta is a regarded leader, and a political leader, and also a community leader that people can rely on when it comes to influencing the way into elections. Neither can we actually still ignore that we have the Rigathi Gachagua as the deputy president at the topmost seat from the mountain. So these two gentlemen, actually, it is the high time, or as a Mountaineer, the high time I would also call them for them to have a seat to harmonize and see that our interests, our pride as Mount Kenya, when it comes to political affairs, is still looked at, and the political affairs of Mount Kenya region relies with these two gentlemen. So Rigathi Gachagua terming them their friendship, and of course calling out President Uhuru Kenyatta to come out on board so that they can talk about the affairs of the region. Then, it's high time for also President Uhuru Kenyatta. I think maybe he's still around. Maybe he's still around.
Even you would like to see retired President Uhuru Kenyatta say something.
Of course, I would like for him to, there are those people that if they clear the air, because why these sentiments are coming out from the politician from Mount Kenya is because they want him to clear the air. They actually really need to know what game is it that it's President Uhuru Kenyatta who is calling on Raila Odinga to get to William Ruto. So I'm trying to, at a time when Uhuru Kenyatta was antagonized and distracted and destroyed politically by the said people that he's trying to send Raila Odinga, who was his presidential candidate, to go for a talk, then I wish to understand what interest and what the kind of benefits President Uhuru Kenyatta is getting out of. Of course, there's so much he can lose when this country is in tears and of course in disparity.
His business
agony. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But it reminds me of one pronouncement that the retired president Daniel Moi once said, when the chance for Moi must go all over. He once said, munasema Moi must go sasa, itafika mali mutasema Moi must come. Now, all other presidents, including Kibaki, have had the same chance. Kibaki must go, Uhuru must go, Ruto must go currently. It would appear that now people are saying Uhuru must come. Kalonzo Musyoka is also on page 9 of the Standard saying Uhuru will soon call a Azimio meeting. Everyone seems to find the necessity to invoke retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's name. And this is from different political affiliations. The deputy president and his Mount Kenya faction, Raila Odinga and his newfound alliance with the president, William Ruto, and now, even Azimio say, he's coming our way. Why now? Hans?
There have been a lot of stories going around. There's been stories like the demonstration we've been having, that has been a hand-bind, and there have been claims that could lead to the deputy president. And at some point it was felt that maybe he's working with Uhuru Kenyatta. Now Raila is here saying that Uhuru Kenyatta was also sent me to talk to Ruto and help him calm the situation. So there must be a push of here and there to at least clear the air, and everybody is expecting the former president to say something. And also there is a roaming audio of Wycliffe Oparanya saying that it is Raila who asked him and coerced him to accept to be a cabinet secretary. And then Raila went ahead and said, we didn't agree with Ruto. Ruto just appointed his people. So you find that, and then he goes ahead and says that he asked Raila, why did you say so? He said that that's how politics is played. So we don't know whether Raila is saying the truth that Uhuru sent him or is playing his politics in the podium. And at times when I want to hit you as my opponent in politics, I would say it's you who sent me or it's you who did something. So there's no way you can respond. If you respond, maybe it kills you more. And one thing I would think is former president actually needs to say something and give direction. Because if Raila tells us today that then Raila goes ahead to say it is Uhuru who sent me to talk to Ruto. Then with the same speech, on the same mic, he goes ahead and says it's Ruto who looked for me. So there's a lot of contradiction. And then again, if Ruto looked for you and you really wanted to help him, did you have to ask for cabinet positions in return? And then he goes ahead and he said that Ruto said, give me these people to work with me. So it doesn't really hit well. But one thing we would say is that it is a lot of sense of politics being played, because you see the people who are being appointed are politicians, probably to cool the temperature of politics around.
Is it just that Uhuru Kenyatta is a convenient name to invoke at this time? Or is there some value that comes with it? The fact that everyone seems to want to own that support from the retired president. Kalonzo claims Uhuru will soon call Azimio meeting, meaning that he is still in Azimio and will support us. Meanwhile, Raila Odinga wants to own that support towards his move to join government, and Rigathi Gachagua towards his move to unify the mountain. Is there some real dividend to be gotten from trying to own part of this support?
Well, I think that is coming more from not seeking support, but frustration. We have a very frustrated political class. The president himself, he had to go to bed with the opposition. The leader of opposition, he felt threatened by the Gen Z revolution. He had to seek refuge and now converge with his equals, the politicos, to see how he can evoke his political relevance. We have the Deputy President, Gachagua, who is really struggling to find a footing in politics. And I think it has become very apparent to him this is his first and last term in presidency. I don't see anybody else picking him as a running mate. Neither do I see him running for president. So this ends in 2027 for him. Or equally, the Right Honorable Odinga will not be on the ballot come 2027. He will not vie. So they are at a catch-22.
And Kalonzo is hoping that...
Kalonzo is now trying to dilly-dally and find himself in the watermelon situation. Where do I go? If I abandon them, will I have enough following? If I join Uhuru, will he back me like he backed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga? Or do I go independently and stand with the people? Because Stephen Kalonzo, the senior counsel, has done fairly well for himself in these last couple of months by standing with the Gen Z. If he does not waver in terms of yielding to the Azimio or whatever, the ODM rather, pressure, he still has a better standing. And I would wish this one time he just seeks the grace from the people and not from support from the other people. Okay. Now, when it comes to the retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta, we say it loudly, amalize aende. And he did his term and he left. I don't see why they want to drag him back into politics. We were very adamant that we can run this country better than he did when he was the president. And his political influence was well tabulated in the last general election. He supported the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. They did not make it. So that is as far as his political influence goes. I think for now, they are all trying, they are afraid that if Uhuru does not join their camp, he may join somebody else come 2027, because he still has a vote.
So Uhuru will be a key factor in 2027. Is that what you're saying?
He has some influence, let's agree. You know, we give credit where it's due. He can mobilize at least 1 million votes in the country, that much, according to my analysis. Now, the greatest threat to this whole political class right now is Jimmy Wanjigi, the one person they're trying to tame, because he's coming out to answer the economic question. Them just still struggling with a political answer to a socio-economic question, which they cannot understand. But Jimmy Wanjigi is coming out clearly and saying, as a country, this is a direction to go with debts, with revenue collection, and position ourselves for posterity as a nation.
Okay.
Now,
interestingly, Jimmy Wanjigi's name is not being dragged into any of this
affiliation, because he's now on the other side. He's left the group, he's standalone, he's charting his own path. Now, I wonder what the deputy president has to gain from the evoking the name of Uhuru, who was an opponent in the last general election.
Okay.
Would the president allow the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, into government in whatever capacity, you know, whether directly or indirectly? I do not think so. And then you look at the administration we are having. Already we are losing the party. The UDA party is in shambles, you know, which goes to tell you that even the president does not have a party to run with come 2027.
Speaking of the UDA party, and as we wrap up this show, yesterday the former or the ousted Secretary General of the party, Cleophas Malala, came out and issued his very first press conference since his ouster. And he made some very sensational claims. He talked about the plan to impeach the deputy president and who, and he even mentioned names, were behind that plan. The majority leader in the National Assembly and the chairperson of the UDA party. That in itself, from a former SG of the biggest party in Kenya, is big enough news. What do you think is happening in UDA?
Still Malala terms himself as the serving and deserving SG. So, his ousting came at a time when no one expected such would be happening to a ruling party, and especially the investment that this party has done, and the kind of cordial relationship that these people came with. All in all, Malala was not a UDA guy. He came out, he was an outsider who got the Secretary General. He came from the ANC, and then he was able to convince his boss, also Musalia, to join the trail. And I think these made him to become the Secretary General of the ruling party. But how this thing was done, and why I think Cleo Malala need to get his justice, and a new way ought to be, or a new method ought to have been opted on how they can bring up a new SG, because ousting Cleo Malala at the early morning, 5 a.m. as they term it, that's when they convened a meeting to oust Malala, and then having Isaac Hassan Omar as the new interim Secretary General, at a time when the UDA was still continuing to prepare for its party elections. And then I think they would have waited for Malala then to have these elections done, and then the delegates, the UDA delegates, would have elected a new Secretary General and new party leaders that would have emerged. But I think we have a time when the party is facing political risk that is in the verge of collapsing and disintegrating. We are looking at a place when we have office politics inside UDA. So we have leadership in the party that is pro-president, and leadership in the party that is pro-deputy president. And these two factions, of course, Malala said that hawezi kubali kufukuzwa peke yake. So he's coming out to term the two people, Governor of Embu and the MP of Kikuyu, that they are the people who were behind the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president. And I was trying to look at why they would be interested in impeaching the deputy president, and these two people having being big leaders into this party and then coming from the mountain region. Now, unless they have future agenda and some personal interests around the deputy president, okay, it would be very hard for them to bring up the issue of impeachment and impeaching the deputy president at a time when the party needs to actually come together at such a time when it faced risk of a vote of no confidence by the Kenyans themselves, and of course a more elaborated opposition. And I think even now the president need to call shots and bring his house into order.
Okay, 2 minutes for you, Hans, and it has come. The problems within the UDA party have come could not have come at a worse time. Because the president is facing a lot of issues at the national level. Having his party conducting such meetings at 5 a.m. and ousting senior officials and having such claims going up and down, that in itself is a burden the president should not be carrying at this time.
Cleophas Malala, the former SG for UDA, as a character of his politics, which he came with it to the party of UDA. He is known for goons, and that's one of the reasons why the house happened at 5 a.m. You know, we are talking about a democratic country. There is one of a UDA member, one of the founders, by the name Joe Kalendi, who was not impressed by how the current SG then, Cleophas Malala, was running his programs in the party and his loyalty to the party, and it shows his dissatisfaction. And Malala could not accept it. He had to come with goons to make sure that they deal with this guy. So we should see some kind of fairness and democracy, that anybody who has some kind of dissatisfaction about the leadership of a certain person should have the right to explain. And outside of Cleophas Malala should have happened early, because his character really didn't look to be pro-national party or that is ruling. And we saw him even attending a rally that is opposing the government, the Tawe movement. How do you do that? And you're the SG of a leading party. You know, maybe my thinking is maybe he really wanted to get out of UDA. He was not still interested. Maybe he's starting a new way into politics of Western region in Kenya.
Yeah, Wanya, you get the final word at this conversation.
I wonder why Hans has a problem with Malala defying some orders of the party, and not the same when and not concerned with the EPR defying the court ruling. What I'm saying is there is rampant lack of proper leadership in this administration, including the political party. But what I would call upon from all Kenyans is that we the people, we must realize that we make the country. As we move forward, the revolution continues progressively and peacefully. We must understand that all we are yearning for is a better country. The president has tough decisions to make. I've said it's going to get very peacefully chaotic, but we must not lose the focus. We must upgrade the country to the status that we desire to have it.
Mm-hmm. The kind of stability the president needs, whatever is happening at the party level, will not give him that kind of peace, will it?
No, it will not. It will not. He's going to be very busy putting off fires that he would have avoided if he had demonstrated proper leadership from the word go. Mm-hmm. There are two things I've said before that. Who needs enemies when you have friends like the ones that are surrounding the president? They are the people who are failing him. His party leadership the party has structures, disciplinary structures. It has a tribunal if you have any grievances to raise. Why did they not go through that channel? So that is one thing where you wonder, and he's the chair, you know, he's the leader of the pack. he should have exposed and really tried to impose proper leadership. The same applies to the government, the same applies to the National Assembly. We've had members of parliament who launched us into the protest by chest thumping and a lot of arrogance to the citizens. It is upon the president to know what kind of friends do I need to distance myself from right now for me to see to the end of this term. If not, he's in for a rough ride. And they will all abandon him in time.
Just give a last drop. You'll realize that even on issues of Malala, it's not that that was the only issues. There have been sequences of disappointments that is showing in the party. You realize elections were stopped at some point because of the manner that was being handled. Okay. There are issues of some tenderings and so issues in the party, which is not wrong. But I want to say this, that President Ruto has always a way of coming back. You shouldn't worry that as the party, the president might not have a party to run for in the...
Anything to add briefly, Kabisa?
I think SG Malala was just a casualty of the broad-based association, and I think many casualties will be seen, and I'm not a prophet, but I know even the majority leader is just a casualty, will be a casualty of the dirty work he'll be doing.
Wow. That's a declaration by Yakuna Njima Castro, political analyst and also Secretary General, Vijana Mbele Foundation. Thank you so much for your time at TV47. Also, thank you, Hans Wop, political analyst, and Josephat Kamanya.